Okay, so I'm gonna take two of this video because my audio was just janked. I don't know what happened on OBS. It just janked everything, and my audio was just way in the ceiling. I apologize. I'm still getting used to my new interface. I've been switching up mics, playing with mics. I got to get the right situation for my needs and stuff like that. So I do apologize. I'm learning this fine AMPA game. So make sure to rate, like, and subscribe. Make sure to get your favorite beverage, get what you need, your favorite commentators back. I apologize. Here's take two of this. Look, at the end of the day, I'm going to keep it cutthroat and dry with you guys. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on when it comes to AEW, WWE. Just enjoy pro wrestling for shit's sakes. You know, everybody's got their javelins out today. They're all picking sides. Which one's better? Look, at the end of the day, just enjoy wrestling. Look, I don't care where Chris Jericho goes at the end of the day. I want him to be happy. I want him to get a bag full of money. I want him to have a great send off. I want him to go into retirement the way he wants to go into retirement. If it's WWE, if it's AEW, look, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer for both companies. And if AEW has a Hall of Fame wherever, he'll be enshrined in the Hall of Fame next to Jon Moxley, MJF, Billy Gunn, Dustin Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk. If they want to go that far, he will be enshrined into the Hall of Fame. These guys have made AEW what it is today. There's a lot of names there that that you see on products now, like Ricky Starks could be in the Hall of Fame. You got so many different names, man, when it comes to AEW that should be in the Hall of Fame. Powerhouse Hobbs, there's so many names that I could put there that are / Ring of Honor, all that stuff. So you could put it there. Chris Jericho's there. Kenny Omega's there. We can just go on and on and on. And we could say the same thing about much more of wrestlers, right? We could say for WWE, we could say John Cena, Chris Jericho's up there, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Roddy Piper, Andre the Giant. We could put them all up there. We all have our list. We all have the things. At the end of the day, I just don't see where Chris Jericho fits in as far as I'm concerned with WWE. It's a hard sell for me. It's a hard sell even for me for him being in AEW. See, this is the thing. I don't care where he lands. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer no matter where he goes. He's done everything for AEW. I feel AEW freezing his contract is a little hokey pokey. I think this is a ploy to see if we can get him to resign and throw him the kitchen sink. The last time I was reading on Chris Jericho, AEW wanted to give him stock within the company and be the second booker next to Tony Khan. That was the last rumor and speculation that I saw online, and then it went cold, and then he wasn't showing up to the Royal Rumble. He wasn't showing up over here. He wasn't showing up to the first Raw of the year. So it was just like, look, at the end of the day, to me, I just don't care. The matches that Chris Jericho is going to have in AEW or WWE going forward are going to be putting over talent. And if he does get a belt, it's going to be the B+ title for the heavyweight side. He is way past his expiration date. I'm so tired that he's still got something left to give, and it's like, no, when at the end of his AEW run, before he went on tour and got jacked, he has literally lost a step in my eyes. He's not the same Chris Jericho that came into AEW, was the Painmaker. I think that was the pinnacle Chris Jericho next to the list. Now, there was some Attitude Era stuff, but I think pinnacle old man Chris Jericho has come and gone. I honestly just believe that at this point. I love Chris Jericho. I want him to be happy. I want to get him a bag full of money. But at the end of the day, for me, as a wrestling fan, his time has come and gone. I could see him being a commentator, a general manager, maybe a GM. But as far as wrestling goes, I just don't think he has enough in the tank left. The last time I saw him wrestling, he was getting beat, and then the learning tree shit, and then he's been gone for so long. I don't care enough. And I know everybody's fighting over, oh, well, he's going to WWE. I don't care like what side he goes to. I just want him to put over talent and be treated properly. That's all I give a shit about at the end of the day when it comes to Chris Jericho. I don't care what people tell me different shit. I just want Chris Jericho to be treated right. I want him to have a good send off. I want him in the Hall of Fame. I want him to be wined and dined by whatever company it is. He deserves that. He needs to be treated 5 stars. But if he's going into AEW or WWE, there's too much good talent. And I feel like he's done way too much for AEW. And I don't feel like there's nothing there for him to do outside of being a manager, commentary, a GM, if they want to go that far, and give him some equity in the company. What are you going to have him do? What, win the Ring of Honor belt again? TNT belt again? When he's about to leave the door? Because if they're freezing his contract, right, and they're going to tack on time when he comes back, you're going to have him on TV. You're going to have him finish out as a true professional and put over talent. There's just no other way of that. And does Chris Jericho want to do that? That's the $1 million question. You know, we don't know what Chris Jericho's feeling. We're going off of a report from Fightful Select that's been 100% correct about the situation. And people in Chris Jericho's camp has stated that AEW has frozen his contract. Now, I'm not going to be one of those people on YouTube or any of these video platforms, and I'm going to go, man, throw my hands up in the air and go, it's all Tony Khan's fault. No, Tony Khan's just being a businessman. WWE does this all the time. WWE has done this with announcers. They've done this with other wrestlers. They try to get these wrestlers into contracts just to release them and put them under a year non-compete clause if they do anything wrong. Look at Andrade. You know, take a look at Ricochet's girlfriend. That's one of the head commentator or voices for WWE. That's been, you know. So at the end of the day, both companies are petty. It doesn't make it wrong or it's right when it comes to this shit. But when it comes to WWE or AEW, these two companies mimic each other at times. And they're very petty in the same veins. I'm sorry, not sorry for my comments or my opinions. And I'm not going to apologize for saying, you know, AEW screwed up here. I feel like they've done a bad job handling this Chris Jericho situation. The guy should have his contract should have expired. He should have been gone everywhere he wanted to go, or anywhere he wanted to go, I should say. You know, just keeping it around and kind of biased. I don't really care where he goes. He could show up at TNA tomorrow, and I wouldn't care. To me, I just want Chris Jericho to have the best. He says he wants 2 more years, then he wants to retire. Let him have what he wants to have. Give him a bag full of money. Let him do what he needs to do. But I don't need him clogging up the upper tiers of the WWE A tier where we have the World Heavyweight title and the Undisputed, and he's pulling a Roman Reigns and he gets to call his own shots to what he gets to do. I think that's just ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous what Roman Reigns is doing. Roman Reigns thinks he's on the top of the mountain when there's plenty of youth that could take his spot and do a better job. Trick Williams is one of them. Carmelo Hayes is another. Ilya Dragunov. If we really want to go there, I think Roman Reigns is going to be past his expiration date in WWE. I feel he's another John Cena in the works. I feel like he's going to overstay his welcome. I just feel Roman Reigns is going to do that. Roman Reigns is going to overstay his welcome. I think he's going to do what The Rock does. Well, I need to be here because I need to win belt, but I'm not here for 6 months. Well, I'm going to go film a movie, but I'm here. I'm the main guy, but I'm going to clog up creative and I'm going to clog up all the shit. I don't want to see that from Chris Jericho. I want Chris Jericho to be treated properly. I don't want to see him on the shelf on AEW because that would be stupid. AEW would done freak up if they literally did that shit. They're already doing that with Camille. Supposedly, Britt Baker's being taken off the bench and being brought back to television. At this point, I just don't get the mindset. If Chris Jericho doesn't want to be there, Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe this is just a negotiation tactic. Who knows? And, look, he wasn't going to be WrestleMania bound to begin with, and it just confirms all of it now at this point. Now, when he gets done with his Fozzy tour, they're saying that he's going to make a big decision on his next career move. So it tells me if they're freezing his contract and they're going to tack on time, then he's going to be stuck in AEW until the fall of this year. So I think at this point, I think that's where we're at with this, right? You would think. So if he's stuck until SummerSlam or something after SummerSlam, you would think that's when he would show up. Do you do kind of like what they did with Tommaso Ciampa in AEW, where they just transcend him to a title and that's just what we do? So to me, I just don't know the perfect situation for Chris Jericho because he's been gone for so long, and the last visions we had of him, it wasn't great. It wasn't good. And you can't tell me any different. He's lost a step. He was slow in the ring. That's the same way like Big Show wants to come back. Paul White wants to come back, or whatever Big Show's name is. He wants to come back and have one more or two more matches, and I'm like, he couldn't walk in the ring to begin with, and he's always hurt. Do you take the risk there? That's how I feel about Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has lost a step. I feel like I'm going to be real with this one, and I'm going to say this take, and I know it's going to be harsh to some people, but I feel like he's LeBron James. Way too long in the league, and has been hampering things for the league itself. I feel the same way about Chris Jericho. Way, way past his prime. There's been wrestlers, and I appreciate Cena for doing it. I appreciate AJ Styles for what they're doing, but I think AJ Styles is going to be AEW bound to begin with. I think, let's keep it for real here. I think he's going to be in AEW. I don't think that this sets right with AJ Styles the way he retired in WWE. We'll see at the tribute. He's saying all the right things, but I think he's saying all the right things, and then we're going to see him in AEW in the summer. I said that to many of my community members. I really just think that AJ Styles is going to walk in. If that rumor is true with Scarlett Bordeaux and Killer Cross, AEW is going to have a major get this summer. They're going to be on fire if that's the case. That's a pipe dream. I glorified that's a pipe dream. But I want AJ Styles to have a better send-off than what he got with WWE. That's my personal opinion. And I feel that with Chris Jericho. I feel like when Adam Copeland left WWE, I felt like that was not a really good send-off. And I'm hoping AEW does it better for him and Christian when it's all said and done. Same with Dustin Rhodes. When Dustin Rhodes gets healed up and he gets, I hope they give him a nice send-off and he goes on his merry way on the top, like they did Sting. The one thing I will give AEW credit, they do wine and dine their legendary talent, and they treat their talent that have been there putting the most work in the best. Look at Danielson, what they're doing with him. And obviously Danielson's happy because he's not back in WWE. And I wouldn't doubt Danielson being in a ring. I just wouldn't doubt it. Like, he says his neck is all this, that, and the third, but he's also said that he wants to go wrestle over on the other side. So I do think he's due a big payday coming soon to keep him happy in AEW, but that's just my personal opinion. All of this is my opinion, by the way. Before somebody comments down below and says, oh, I'm just an AEW fanboy, or oh, I'm just this, that, and the third. Look, I'm a pro wrestling fan. Look, I don't care. Look, Chris Jericho is up on a Mount Rushmore, or one of them. There's so many good wrestlers that you can put up there from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, mid-2000s. There's so much you could put up there. At the end of the day, we can all agree Chris Jericho is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's done enough for AEW. I don't think I think he really looked at the cards in front of him. He's done everything he could possibly do in AEW. What more can he do? What, go for a international title? Continental title? What more can he? He's technically a Grand Slam champion if you want to go there. He's the Ocho. What more do you need to do with him in AEW? Like, to me, you could bring him into WWE. You can have him go into NXT. You can have him go into TNA under the partnership. You can have him do a million different things in WWE. It suits more for WWE than it does AEW. Now, I could see him in TNA. That's another factor. I could see him in MLW because MLW is heating up and they got some money to spend too. So let's see where Chris Jericho wants to go. But as of right now, he is frozen. And when he does come back, how long is he going to be in AEW for before he gets to be allowed to go somewhere else to be a free agent? That's the $1 million question. Like I said before, I'm happy for Chris Jericho no matter what he does. If this is a ploy to get him to re-sign with the company and maybe more negotiations, and if the rumors are true, originally they were going to offer him the kitchen sink. And if that's what they were to do, give him like the Powerhouse Hobbs treatment, which I'm assuming Chris Jericho is going to decline all that and say, fuck that. And he's going to go over to WWE because he wants that first ballot Hall of Fame status with John Cena and a bunch of others. You know, who knows? I'm going by reports. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But when it comes to Chris Jericho, I don't care where he goes. End of story. Look, I think he's clogging up a roster spot. That's just me. I think he could do a million other things being a non-wrestler. That's my opinion. But others say different. And look, we can all agree to disagree on this, but that's just how I feel. The way he left AEW to go on a Fozzy tour, the way he took off out of AEW, the matches didn't look good at the end. And I felt like, man, this dude had a second prime, and now it's tailing off, and it just shows. And what are you going to put him in? What, matches with Dominic Mysterio, Gunther? What are you going to do, Seth Rollins? Are you going to put him in with Javon Evans? Is that what we're going to do next? Or are we going to put him against Uma? Are we going to put him against Joe Henry? These are the things that I have questions of. Where do you put Chris Jericho in WWE sense? Like, there's too much good talent. SmackDown's got a youth movement going on that they don't really need Chris Jericho. The unfortunate part, WWE doesn't really have spots for Chris Jericho. And you're kind of squeezing Chris Jericho in a peg in a hole where I just don't see it. I don't. As a wrestling fan, I just don't see it on either side. I think Chris Jericho had his time in the sun. He should have retired after what happened with the Learning Tree and that stupid segment that he did. The crowd was turning on him, quite literally. So he's in a Cody Rhodes situation if you want to go there. And I think Tony Khan knows this. And Tony Khan's hoping with freezing his contract that he can hold up hope that he re-signs. I think he's more WWE bound, but that's me. I just don't see how they're gonna end his career in WWE. I just don't know how they're gonna do it because WWE's 0 for the century on this. They botched John Cena. They botched Goldberg. They have botched AJ Styles at this point. They don't know what to do when it comes to crunch time and retirement tours. They just don't know what to do. I'm sorry. I got to call it for what it is. And I have to be as real to my opinion and keep it raw and uncut and unbiased to my own opinion. I know I'm going in so much depth over this, but like Chris Jericho, where do you put him? I think Intercontinental? Maybe you put him maybe in NXT. Maybe you do something cool in that aspect. Maybe he puts over some talent. I just don't know where you fit him. Because WWE, they're already talking New Era. And New Era looks like Ilya Dragunov, Trick Williams, Carmelo Hayes, Joe Henry, Ricky Saints. That's your New Era. Ethan Page. Where does Chris Jericho fit in all that? Do you put him up already on a roster that's already like aging out? Punk's probably got another year or two at best. Roman Reigns probably's got 2 years left. So your card is always going to be literally CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. Maybe you pencil in Braun Breaker into that. And I feel now if you bring Chris Jericho in, Braun Breaker goes lower in the card. LA Knight goes lower in the card. See, these are things that I'm saying. Like, where do you put Chris Jericho in? Do you put him in a Dominic Mysterio position? to where you have him beat Dominic for Intercontinental belts, then where do you fit Logan Paul there? Because Logan Paul's an upcoming, literally should be World Heavyweight Champion. And I know people are going to tell me Logan Paul's a piece of shit. But again, he's a piece of shit of a human being. Yes, I agree there. But as a wrestler, he's a great wrestler and a great promo and a great heel act. So you can't, like, again, this comes back to the same topic. Where do you put Chris Jericho if he goes WWE? If he is WWE bound, and then if they're going to freeze his contract, put him up on the sidelines, it's a waste for AEW. AEW shot themselves in the foot in this situation. So you really, if you dive deep and you go personal into this, Chris Jericho doesn't fit. I think the last time we're going to see Chris Jericho, probably in my opinion, I feel like he's going to waste one of these years on literally trying to get out of an AEW contract or doing what he needs to do with AEW. I think out of this, I think Tony Khan believes, and shame on AEW here. Like, let's cut it a rug here. AEW, shame on them. But they've been known to do this. So is WWE. Look at Samantha Irving. Look at what they did with Andrade. Take a look what they've done with other wrestlers that have left. 90 days, 1 year, non-compete. So when you go there, and I could just go on to so many different wrestlers in WWE that their contracts have been held. But at the end of the day, like I said, what do you do with Chris Jericho? And it's I know people don't want to hear this from me and my own opinion on this, but to be honest, what do you do with this individual when you have so much youth that it hurts? And I feel Roman Reigns is clogging WWE. I feel CM Punk should have lost the belt to Breakker, but then Breakker had a hernia and all this extra shit. So I just hope that Braun Breaker gets healthy, he gets back on the right path, and we can get that Seth Rollins Breaker title somewhere down this line, and Breaker goes over. I really thought maybe at Mania would be his moment to shine, and then he takes over from Seth, and then he could be World Heavyweight Champion for a good 6 months. Because this man's been putting on some good shit. He didn't have a really good start when he came out of NXT to Monday Night Raw, but, he's kind of turned it up a little bit with the vision, but he got hurt. Unfortunately, this is my opinion. You take it or you leave it. This is my take two. I did a little longer for you guys because I like Chris Jericho, but I just don't see where he fits. And honestly, like, do you have him take up a roster storyline from a youth talent that deserves that? You're telling me that he's better than a Trick Williams that's healthier and younger that can have more? Do you have him come in and build up like a Javon Evans? Then I feel like you're wasting Chris Jericho. Then in the AEW side, since his contract, how long is he going to be in AEW? How long is he going to be in purgatory at this point? That's the questions that his contract's frozen, but when he gets off a tour, does it mean he's a free agent? Or are they tacking on time like injury time? Because he took personal time. And that's just AEW being petty, but WWE's been known for this. You can't, I love wrestling fans. You can't have your cake and eat it all at once, man. You can't blame one company for doing it when the company that you cheer for in the tribalistic bullshit that is made up and bullshit. It's just like the console fanboy wars that are over and the phone wars, Android versus Google or whatever. Like I said, it's all crock of shit at the end of the day. Both companies do similar shit. You can't sit here and say, oh, well, this one's better, this one's doing it great, blah, 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 blah. You can't. You can't point fingers when the company that you kiss their boots and their rings on, literally no joke, and kiss their ass, and if they took a shit in your face, you would pretty much go, oh yeah, baby. You can't champion. At the end of the day, that's my opinion. Take it or leave it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.